So today I'm going to talk to you about different types of file extensions. When you're doing photography, it's very important to know what kind of files you're working with and how you're saving them and where you're saving them. So that's why I'm going over these file types. You still need to make your folders. You still need to go get the files, but I'm going to talk to you about them real quick since I'm not here today. So a JPEG is like the main kind of picture file. Most pictures are JPEGs. It's easy to compress. It's a super easily supported file. It's great for sharing photos. The only problem with the JPEG are that you can't do transparent backgrounds, and I'll show you that later in class. We'll talk about transparent backgrounds. And if you make them bigger or smaller, they don't often save their same quality. PSD files are Photoshop format, which unless you have Photoshop, you can't open these. So we will be working with a little Photoshop, but if you find a Photoshop file, it's not going to work. Ping is probably the second most used file. It can have a transparent background, so that's pretty cool. If you want to put it in HTML files or put it on the internet or put it in pictures or any kind of things in newspapers and you want to have a transparent background, that's what you need. It's good for the web. It is a big file size, not huge, but it's bigger than a ping or a JPEG, so that's a little bit different. I never use these tips, but if you're going to do newspapers or things like that, you'll probably encounter TIFFs, but I don't ever really use TIFFs. GIFs, and I looked it up, and the guy who made it calls it a GIF like the peanut butter, even though I want to call it a GIF because it looks like gift. It's a GIF if you're saying it right. So these are the ones that move, and not all GIFs move, but you can make them move, and they're usually not very high quality. Like, you know, they're little tiny versions. They're probably like 100 by 100 usually. They're not usually huge, but they move. I kind of think of them as like Harry Potter pictures, where the pictures in the newspaper move, pictures on the internet move. It's like moving picture. So that's what that one is. Let me talk about the next one. And with what we're doing in this class, we're not really using super high quality pictures because we don't have room on our H drive to go over super high quality pictures. That one's taking forever to load. Let's go try this next one. No, of course my internet's slow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's 10 of them. This is kind of important for this class, vector versus raster kind of images. Raster images are pretty much what we are going to use. They're all pictures you see on the internet usually, unless it's a logo or something. It's easy to edit, it's easy to save, they're not huge files. The only problem is if they're little and you try to blow them up, they'll lose quality. They'll get kind of pixelated and blurry if you try to make them too big. Vector images are super cool because they're made with math, so it has the exact proportions for however you want it. So you can make it super tiny, like 10 by 10 pixels. You can make it 2,000 by 2,000 pixels, and it'll look exactly the same. The resolution doesn't change. So that's why you would use those. Here's a bunch of different kinds of files that we already talked about: JPEGs, PNGs, GIFs, TIFFs, Photoshop, PDFs, more like documents. The Adobe Illustrator, if you go to high school and you take graphic design, you'll probably be using that. Raw images are what my cameras take photos in, but they're freaking huge, so they're really hard to keep raw images on your cameras or on your hard drives because they just take up so much room. But if you're really working in photography and doing real graphic design, you'll be working with raw images. Okay? Let's see if this one loaded. Okay, let's pretty much all the same thing, except this one's going to talk about bitmaps. So this one's got good pros and cons of different ones. I'm going to go down to the bitmap because we haven't talked about that yet. Bitmaps are good for printing, super high quality. They are really big though. It's going to be really hard for you to find a bitmap for your project. So I know this one is. Let me look. So I'm going to search Tiger bitmap, and I think it's this one, but let me go look. So if I click this one, and I'm going to try to save it, right click, save image as. Let's see if it's actually a bitmap. Oh, it is. So if you're looking for a bitmap and you can't find it, you can always go get that Tiger one, and it should save as a bitmap in that folder if you did that one right. So search Tiger bitmap, and it should be right there. Okay? Make sure that it actually saves as that, because that's what I'm grading when I'm grading stuff.